All right, so now we're going to use Audacity to create a unique timbre, except mine's not going to be all that unique. I'm going to use a fundamental frequency and overtones, but I'm going to start to recreate one of the waveforms that we looked at just to give you an example of how to do it. I want you to create your own, so think about which amplitude you want and which overtones you want. You might say, well, I only want 1, 2, 5, 7, and 14. I'm just going to do a few, and we're going to try to replicate, to some extent, the sawtooth wave. All right, here we go. First thing I want to do is in the Generate menu, I want to generate a tone. And because that we know from Mr. Fourier that any sound can be made up of sine tones, we're going to use a sine wave. So I'm going to use my frequency of 100 hertz just because the math will be easier. But I'll show you how to use a calculator, at least on the computers in the lab. And we're going to pick an amplitude, not too high, because I don't want it to get too loud. So I'm going to pick 0.3 or about 30%. And then we'll do it for about 5 seconds. So here we go. And there is my tone. Let me zoom in so you can see it's a sine wave. Let's zoom back out. And let's listen to it. Not too exciting. Okay, so now, if we remember, in the sawtooth wave, we have every overtone, and the amplitude of each overtone is 1 over the number of the overtone. So the second overtone would be half, or 1 over 2. The third overtone would be 1 over 3. The fourth overtone would be 1 over 4, and so on and so forth. Also, every other overtone reverses the polarity. So we invert the waveform. So let's first create a waveform and then we can invert it. And I need to create a new track first. Add new. This is a mono track. It's not in stereo. Now I can, there we go. Now let's generate a tone on the new track. All right, back to this. 200. Because it's the second overtone. Now my amplitude is going to be 1/2, or 1 over 2. So in this case, the math will be easy. Half of 0.3 is 0.15. And I'll also do it for 5 seconds. And you can see the amplitude is about half of this, so it'll be twice as quiet. So let me zoom in a little bit so we can see. There we go. I want to go back to the beginning. I'm going to use my keyboard and do the home key. And we can see that these are in the same polarity, or the phase is going similarly, right? We're going from 0 to a higher pressure and then to a lower pressure. Same with this. So I want to reverse this or invert it. So I'm going, let me do that again. If you click in the left area, that selects the whole track. And if I go to the effect menu, which we haven't looked at, there's a listing of all the effects you can do. Some of these should be fairly obvious, like fade in, fade out, so on and so forth. At the top section, it goes from, they go in alphabetical order, from amplify down to wah-wah. These are the built-in ones for Audacity. The ones down here are the ones that are on my computer system. And I have quite the list. The ones on your system might be a little different. They might not even be there. You'll always have these, but you might not have anything down here. Okay, we want to go to invert. And there it is, inverted. So you see it goes from 0 down to a lower pressure, and then up to the higher pressure. Let's hear what all that sounds like. Just to give you an idea, let's solo the top one. That's what that sounds like. Let's unsolo it. Okay. So not a whole lot different. I'm going to hit the home key, go back to the beginning. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to do 4 of these. Let's add new mono track. And we're going to generate a tone. My frequency is going up. My amplitude is going down. So the next one is the third overtone. And if I remember my formula, it would be 3 times the fundamental. Since my fundamental was 100, it would be 300. The amplitude is going to be 1 over the overtone. So my original amplitude was 0.3. So this is 1/3 of that, so it's going to be 0.1. So, and we'll do it for the same 5 seconds. Let's generate that. And there we have it. You can see it's even smaller. This one, the phase is going to be the same as the original. Let me zoom in. Go to the beginning. Whoop. There we go. Let me zoom out just a hair. There we go. So this one is going first up to higher pressure, down to lower pressure. Perfect. Just what I want. All done. Let's do one more. Whoops. Wrong thing. Go to tracks. Add new mono track. And go to generate a tone. It's going to be 400. And my amplitude is going to be 1/4, right? Because this is the 4th one. So I had 0.3, and that's a little bit too much math for my brain. So I'm just going to use my phone. So I'm just opening up the calculator on my phone. 0.3 divided by 4 equals 0.075. 0.075. There we go. And there it is. Now this one has to be inverted. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see the waveforms. All right, and let's click on the beginning here, select that one, go to Effect, go to Invert, and there we have inverted. Let's hear what all this sounds like. So not too bad. So we have a bunch of waveforms. Let's see what it's starting to look like. So if I select all, if I go to the select all, or I do Command A, which on the Macintosh, most programs, if you do Command A, it'll select everything. But let's do that. And under the tracks menu, yes, it's mix. So you can either mix and render, which will mix everything together into one track and eliminate all these tracks. So it would replace all these with a new one. I want to, just so I keep that one, I want to do mix and render to a new track. And there it is. And you can see our sawtooth wave starting to take shape. If I kept going where these bumps are, would straighten out. So that's how we create a timbre. So you want to, your fundamentals are always going to be the same, right? It's, you have our fundamental frequency. The overtones are going to be 2 times that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as far as you want to go. Now the amplitudes, that's up to you, how you want to do it. If you want to follow some formula, you could do some random ones. I could do, let's say, I want my second overtone to be louder than the first, and the third to be really soft, and the fourth to be in between, so on and so forth. Who knows? Or like I said, you don't have to have all the overtones. Some of the waveforms only have the odd ones. You could just have the even ones. You could, let's say I'll use prime numbers, and I'm going to only use those overtones. So it's up to you. That's how you create a new timbre.